Everyone he loved disappeared, not by accident, by choice. Joseph sat on a cold park bench, fingers trembling, eyes blank. Just a year ago, he had it all: a steady job, a beautiful fiancée, friends who actually laughed at his jokes, and a church family that called him brother. Now, not a single one of them answered his calls. One by one, they had vanished, one betrayal at a time. They disappeared like smoke in the wind. It started with his best friend, the one he'd trusted with his life, who stole a significant amount of money from him and just vanished. Then his boss, who had always praised his work, fired him over a mistake he didn't even make, using him as a scapegoat to save the company's face. The final blow came from his fiancée. There was no argument, no tearful goodbye. Just a simple, cold note left on the kitchen counter that read, "I can't do this anymore." He'd been stabbed in the back, not once, but over and over again until his entire world had gone silent. But this wasn't a peaceful silence. No, this was the kind of silence that's louder than a scream. It was the silence of an empty inbox, an unanswered phone, a hollow apartment. People bustled past him on the street, lost in their own worlds, their laughter and conversations like a language he no longer understood. He was right there, but no one saw him. No one seemed to care. He had become completely invisible. Joseph had officially hit rock bottom, and yet, as he sat there staring at the cracks in the sidewalk, he whispered one desperate question to the empty sky: "God, are you still there?" The nights were always the hardest. Lying on a thin, lumpy mattress in a crowded, noisy shelter, Joseph would just stare at the cracked ceiling above him. The sounds of the room were a symphony of despairmen snoring, tossing and turning in their sleep, some quietly sobbing into their pillows. But inside of him, a much bigger, more violent storm was raging. Doubt was a constant companion, loneliness was a physical weight on his chest. And fear was the air he breathed. He felt like he was wandering through a thick, emotional fog, completely disoriented, unable to see even a single step ahead. The questions haunted him day and night. Who am I now? He'd wonder. Without his job title, without his relationships, without the life he had built, what was left? Does my life even matter anymore? He felt like he was drowning, grasping at straws, trying to hold on to anything, any memory, any small piece of his former self that made him feel human. But every thought just seemed to drag him deeper into the darkness, and he felt like he was losing his grip on reality. He used to believe so deeply, with a faith that felt unshakable. He prayed, he served, he trusted. But now, the silence from heaven felt deliberate, almost cruel. It felt like the ultimate betrayal. He whispered his question again, his voice weaker this time, barely audible over the sounds of the shelter. "God, are you still there?" And then, in that moment of absolute desperation, something changed. It wasn't a booming voice or a dramatic sign. It was a quiet, raspy voice right beside him. "Here," the voice said, "you'll want this." Joseph turned his head. A weathered hand belonging to an old man he'd never spoken to before was offering him an old, battered Bible. Its pages were torn and yellowed. The cover was peeling, but its presence felt strangely powerful. There was no flash of lightning, no choir of angels, no booming voice from the clouds. But as Joseph took the old book and began to flip through its fragile, well-worn pages, something inside of him began to shift. It wasn't anything on the outside. The shelter was still loud. His mattress was still thin. His future was still a complete unknown. The change was happening within him. Each verse he read was like a gentle knock on the door of his hardened heart. He stumbled upon a line in the Psalms: "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." He read it again, and then again. The words didn't shout at him or demand his belief. They whispered like the first rays of sunlight breaking through a thick canopy of storm clouds. It was a promise not of a perfect life, but of presence in the pain. Over the next few days, a subtle transformation began. That heavy, suffocating fog of despair started to lift, not all at once, but little by little. He started helping around the shelter. He swept floors. He folded blankets. He sat with men who were just as lost as he was, and he just listened to their stories. He offered the one thing he had left to give, his time and his attention. And the strangest thing happened. People started to notice. An old man he shared a meal with simply said, "Thanks, I needed that." A young guy, new to the shelter and terrified, offered him a small, genuine smile. "You've got a calming way about you," he said. Joseph wasn't fixed. His problems hadn't magically disappeared, but he was anchored. For the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of purpose, however small. He had become a candle in the cave, offering a flicker of light in the overwhelming darkness, not just for himself, but for others. He realized that God wasn't rebuilding his old life overnight. He was rebuilding Joseph first. And through the cracks of his own broken heart, a new kind of compassion began to shine through. From ashes to an anchor, he finally understood a profound truth. Healing doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, "I lost everything, and I found more than I ever had." Joseph's voice is calm now when he tells his story. It's clear it's no longer the voice of a broken man, but of someone who has been made whole in a much deeper, more meaningful way. He learned a powerful truth that so many of us try to run from. When the world walks away, faith has a chance to walk in. What felt like complete and utter abandonment was actually divine timing. It was a quiet rescue mission disguised as silence. He was never truly alone. He just needed to be still long enough and quiet enough to finally hear the voice of God that was speaking within him all along. Now, he asks a question not just for himself, but for all of us. Who are you when there's no applause? Who are you when no one's watching? When no one is liking your posts or validating your existence? That, he says, is where the real soul searching begins. That's how you find the unshakable strength that exists inside of you. Have you ever felt completely alone? Have you ever felt like the world has turned its back on you? If you've been through a storm that are still here, I want you to comment below with the words, "I'm still standing." Let's create a community of people who believe that faith can make the impossible possible. And remember, the silence you might be experiencing in your life today, it might just be God as preparation for the incredible story He is getting ready to write tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire hope and strength. We'll see you in the next one.